Bond. James Bond.
Daniel Craig's time as 007 is now officially coming to an end. And with No Time to Die now finally in cinemas, we're jumping on the bandwagon and hoping to put an end to the age-old question: who is the best Bond? Hey guys, it's Emily from It's Gone Viral, and today we'll be looking at all the famous faces that have worn the tuxes, drunk the martinis and driven the Aston Martins before deciding who did it best. With the film franchise spanning almost 60 years on screen, it's no surprise that James Bond is one of the biggest cinematic characters of all time. And although 7 actors have all had the pleasure of playing MI6's most notorious spy, we'll only be focusing on these 6 who all feature in Eon productions of Bond. And before the comments start rolling in, for this video we'll be focusing only on those who played the role on screen, before deciding who comes out on top. Before all that though, thanks so much for checking out this video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel to see all your favourite celeb interviews and games. But now let's crack on with it as we decide who is the best Bond. Coming in at number 6 is Australian actor George Lazenby.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
This may not come as a shock to many of you, seeing as Lazenby only featured in one Bond film, 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Lazenby is generally considered to be the worst Bond, but to be fair to him, he had the almost impossible job of taking over the role from the man who made the character so iconic in the eyes of many, Sean Connery. And despite his best efforts to continue what made Connery's Bond so appealing, Lazenby even went to the same barber and wore one of Connery's own suits in his attempt to solidify himself as 007. He never really won the audience over, with one critic calling him annoying and smug, and he even left the role before the release of his one and only film. Ouch, that's gotta hurt.
I think you got the point.
Next up is Timothy Dalton. You have to feel sorry for Timothy Dalton. The bloke was dealt a really rough hand by just so happening to appear in 2 of the worst Bond movies of the franchise, The Living Daylights and Licence to Kill. Dalton himself puts in a decent portrayal of the role and is, in his own way, iconic, with many Bond fans enjoying his stint as 007. Dalton's time in the role saw the franchise move away from the light-hearted, tongue-in-cheek vision of Roger Moore's Bond films, and in that respect, his performance deserves great credit for executing the tonal shift of the franchise. Had he been given more time in the role, Dalton would probably be further up the pecking order. Who knows, with the way movies are being made these days, maybe he'll pop up in a cameo in the next few years. Anyone else up for a James Bond multiverse? Okay, so this one may shock you a bit, given that Brosnan managed to pull off the essential qualities in a Bond, being relentlessly charming and a ruthless killer with ease. But Brosnan's time as Bond reflects exactly where he is in the Bond pecking order, elevating the role from his predecessor Timothy Dalton whilst falling short of Daniel Craig's phenomenal performance as 007, meaning that 4th is probably justified. Brosnan's Bond was also the beneficiary of new and better technology that meant the franchise could push Q's limits like never before. In Brosnan's 4 movies, he's equipped with a phone that can drive a car. And who can forget that ridiculous invisible car?
The Vanish.
In fact, one of the things that goes against Brosnan's Bond is a return to the softer and slightly more light-hearted approach to his movies, especially when you compare them to the game-changing approach and direction of Craig's Casino Royale. I mean, there is literally a spy called Xenia Onatopp in GoldenEye. Onatopp. Come on, Pierce deserved better.
Xenia Sergeyevna Onatopp.
Onatopp?
Onatopp.
Roger Moore, the late, great, and let's be honest, sartorially camp James Bond. Taking the lead in an astonishing 7 James Bond films, Roger Moore is probably the one Bond who it's almost impossible to categorise. Some think his fairly flamboyant and tongue-in-cheek performance cheapened the franchise, and others think it's the definition of the James Bond franchise in the 70s and 80s. Whatever you think of Moore's performance as Bond, you have to appreciate his ability to make you laugh with a terrible one-liner.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
And also carry out the role for a staggering 12 years. In that respect, Moore essentially carried the franchise for over a decade, and that's why we feel he deserves to be this high up on the ultimate list of James Bonds. In at number 2, and just missing out on the top spot, is the man who made the role so iconic in the 60s as James Bond exploded onto our screens. The late, great Sean Connery. Listen, we know we're going to get hate for this, but please hear us out. Sean Connery leaning on that Aston Martin DB5 is what you think of when you think of James Bond. But when you go back and watch some of the earliest movies, as iconic as Connery's Bond is, there are also plenty of moments where he simply misses the grade. Again, in the issue of fairness, this is probably more down to the writing and direction of the franchise at the time. Gone are the days where you expect to see Bond tap one of his scantily clad Bond girls on the arse, and moments such as these will probably continue to define and damage Connery's legacy as Bond. But it's not the only reason that he comes in at second on the list. As cool and as striking as Connery's portrayal of the visionary character was, when you compare Sir Sean's take on the role to Daniel Craig's current incarnation of Bond, the ruthlessness of a deadly assassin that Craig has in abundance just isn't there. Not that this is a bad thing, because Sean Connery left this world last year as the man who brought James Bond to life on the silver screen. And if that isn't an incredible legacy to have attached to your name, then we don't know what is. And so, coming in at number 1 on our list of the best Bonds is the man who has held the role for longer than any other man, Daniel Craig. In order to fully appreciate why he's the best Bond, cast your mind back to 2002. Pierce Brosnan's last outing, Die Another Day, had just been released, and despite it becoming the most financially rewarding film in the franchise at that point, pretty much everyone felt that a change of direction and leading man was needed. Again, a casual reminder that this film featured an invisible fucking car. The hunt was on for a new Bond to truly assert the no-nonsense and back-to-earth approach that the Broccolis were after. And in Daniel Craig, they got exactly that. An actor who had no time for quipping bad one-liners whilst raising an eyebrow and drinking martinis. In truth, Daniel Craig has been the beneficiary of the much more realistic and grounded world of James Bond, which has certainly helped him on his journey to becoming our ultimate James Bond. But putting the right actor and implementing a new incarnation of the role into this world was the key ingredient. And this is why Daniel Craig is our ultimate James Bond. He elevated the role in a much more realistic and grounded world and gave the franchise a much needed new lease of life, whilst also being up against a number of other franchises, superhero movies and adaptations that could easily have overtaken the James Bond franchise. And it's not just us who thinks Daniel Craig is the best Bond ever either, because we spoke to our latest Bond villain, Rami Malek, earlier this week. He also agreed that for him, Daniel Craig comes out on top.
For me, the guy is easily number 1, and I can tell you that from experience. I mean, I never got to work with Connery or Moore, Dalton, Brosnan, or Lazenby. I can't believe I remembered that, but I will say, when you see that man, when the camera's on, even when, in between takes, I'm sure you'll agree, you feel that, you're acting with James Bond, and there's no question that he is the most capable, efficient leader that you could ask for, not only as an actor, but as a character. But I would say especially Daniel. There's something quite special about him and his talents and what he gives and how he elevates everyone's game day in and day out.
So we salute you, Daniel Craig, and we're excited to see who will be the one to replace you. Let us know in the comments who you would want to take over the role of Bond. Thanks so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching It's Gone Viral.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Kevin Hart.
Hi, my name's Eric Snowstreet.
Hi, I'm Margot. I'm Journey.
I'm James McAvoy.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm Rebel Wilson.
I'm Jeremy Clarkson.
I'm going to be translating some Scottish tweets for It's Gone Viral.
On It's Gone Viral.
Ooh. On It's Gone Viral.